Welcome everyone to the Bureau of Special Ed meeting on the 5-year implementation plan for training on the new IEP and the CT-SEDS system. My name is Georgette Nemmer. I am a member of the Bureau of Special Ed and have been designated as a lead on the training efforts related to the new IEP, as well as I have participated in the request for proposal process around both the training side of this project and the data system side. So welcome all. Thank you for taking the time out today. We are planning to end the meeting at 2. Just to remind you, you will all be muted during this. There will be no speaking opportunity just by the nature of this meeting, and we are recording this meeting to be posted for those who could not join us today or those who would like to go back and review the information we present. So with that, I would like to introduce Brian Klimkowitz, who is the Division Director for the Bureau of Special Ed, and my colleague Mike Tavernier, who is the lead on the new IEP redesign, who will be joining me in presenting the information today for all of you. So Brian, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Georgia. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. First and foremost, I just wanted to thank you all for the work that you've done over the past few months to support your students and your staff during this challenging and difficult time. And congratulations to you all on the end of the school year. I think most everyone is complete at this time, closing the chapter, at least on our regular school year. So thank you again for your efforts. I'm extremely happy to be speaking with you this afternoon about a non-COVID related topic, and that's the exciting work that we have in front of us around our revised IEP document, as well as our statewide special education data system. As always, I just wanted to mention how fortunate I am to represent the Bureau of Special Education. As you know, I have an amazing team, and Mike and Georgette are here with me today to speak a little bit about the context of our training moving forward. During my first year at the State Department of Education, we made a commitment to these goals that we're going to talk to you about, and to see it come to fruition is really exciting. I'm so proud of the work and the positive impact that it will have across the state. We've received input, as you know, from a variety of stakeholders, from students to parents to educators, administrators. It's just been so instrumental in helping to shape and guide this work moving forward. We're very excited about the partnerships that we have with CERC and the RESC Alliance, and through CERC, our partnership with AIR, which we'll talk a little bit moving forward in our presentation today. What this session is not today is specific content training on either the IEP document or CT-SEDS. We're going to do high-level overviews. I think most of you are familiar with the work that we've done with the IEP document, but Mike will be summarizing that to some extent to refresh everyone's memory and to sort of go over the processes that we've engaged in through that work. So we're going to be speaking as well. Georgette's going to hit on topics related to the training around the training modules and our strategic planning around really 2 key areas and 2 key components. A quick update with regard to our CT-SEDS. We are in the final stages of selecting a vendor to be able to support our new IEP document and special education data system. So I'm anxious to announce that when that does become final, I anticipate that that announcement will be happening in the very near future. So again, we're excited about all of this work. Just looking at the agenda there, which hopefully you can see on your screens. I mentioned the components of what we will be doing. There is a Q&A section of our training today, or our webinar session communication, and you will have the opportunity to submit your questions through the Q&A button on your screen. So as Georgette mentioned, you will be muted throughout the entire session today, so there won't be an opportunity for you to share questions verbally. But please, as we go through the presentation, write your questions in the format that we have provided you within WebEx. And if you could keep your questions to the content that we're providing, that would be helpful. If you have other questions that you want to submit, we're happy to take those and get information back to you. But just wanted to make that clarification. So next slide, Georgia. So the purpose of our 5-year implementation plan, as I mentioned, those 2 goals, we really want to support the transition to the new and improved individual education program and document the new statewide CT-SEDS system as well. So CT-SEDS stands for Connecticut Special Education Data System, and that really encapsulates the IEP and all of the necessary data components that we will be collecting as part of our system. So an all-in-one snapshot. There will be modules within that system as well to support other needs that you have within the district. For example, MTSS, 504. It will be compatible with Medicaid, billing. So all of the aspects of the system that you have now, we've incorporated it into our system moving forward. So it's not only the IEP form and document, it also contains those programs. As I mentioned, this training today is not a detailed information about the CT-SEDS. We'll have more opportunities to share and communicate that with you over the following months and the following years as we move toward implementation. The training is for all educators that we will be sharing with you involved in the planning and placement teams and IEP development. You can see the key of educators, or general educators, special educators, related service staff, and administrators. I also want to point out here that we are taking a concerted effort to ensure that parents and students are involved in this training as well. So what you're receiving today is the educator component. We'll have and be in alignment with parent training on all of these same aspects of the IEP document and CT-SEDS, as well as our student population. Next slide, please, Georgia. I think this is, Mike, you're going to talk a little bit more about the IEP process, and just wanted to thank you all again for your participation today and your attention. Mike, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Tavernier, and I work in the Bureau of Special Education. And I've been involved in this work. It's just about 2 years now that we've been working on this. And the work really began in earnest in the summer of 2018. And we were looking to really revise our IEP document from the ground up. Over the years that we've had the current document, it's been revised, tweaked, a lot of things have been added. And as we add things, the font gets smaller and smaller. So we really felt it was kind of time to start from scratch and just say, okay, in a perfect world, what would a really good IEP document look like? We reviewed the federal and state statutory and regulatory requirements for what's required in an IEP document, and we did a pretty extensive audit of what other states were using for their IEPs. We had an internal team doing that work, and then we started reaching out to external stakeholders. We had regional meetings where we engaged with teachers and related services personnel. We had multiple parent forums in English and Spanish to get the parent perspective and input. We worked with the RESC Alliance to have a multidisciplinary, multi-perspective stakeholder group that really helped us as we continued to revise and develop our IEP document over the last year or so. When it got to the point where we felt like it was in pretty good shape, we posted it to the CSDE website, and we opened it up for public comment. And we have reviewed those comments and taking those into consideration, and the form continues to develop. The current IEP draft that we have now is not finalized, and as Brian mentioned, we'll be engaging with the CT-SEDS vendor soon And we expect that the form will continue to evolve as we work with those colleagues there. Public comment ran through October of 2019, which seems so long ago, but really it hasn't really been that long. So we're at a pretty good place now to start working with our vendor. But like I said, the form is not finalized yet. But we feel like the basic tenets of the form are there. And although it will be tweaked and revised slightly, we're not expecting any drastic changes. So some highlights of the new form. One of our goals was to redesign the form just to be easier to understand and more user-friendly. And this is everything from the size of the font, like I've already mentioned, to the format of what the text looks like. One of the differences in our new form is that it's not page specific. We're used to saying, look at page 11 or look at pages 4 and 5. So the new form isn't based on pages, it's based on sections. And the overall format of how the text looks on the page is much more accessible, we think, which makes it more user-friendly. We also think the form aligns very well with the PPT decision-making process and supports high-level conversations about what a student's program should look like. And we feel that the form kind of mirrors the process the PPT would go through in designing a program for a student. One of the most exciting things that's different than what we have now is that the form was also, the concept of the form was the original design is meant to be adaptive, and this really allows for individualization of IEPs. Right now, we have a very static form. The form basically looks the same for every student as far as the template or kind of the boilerplate language looks like. With the new form in the new CT-SEDS system, it will really be, each student's IEP will really look different depending on what that student requires. As a quick example, right now, a lot of students have page 6 transition planning on their IEP, although they don't participate in any kind of transition activities. Similarly, there are students that aren't participating in statewide assessments based on the current grade level they are, and yet their IEP still has that section. The new form is designed to adapt to what the student's needs are, and sections that aren't appropriate or relevant to the student would be suppressed. And when this document is finalized and printed, those sections wouldn't appear. One thing we heard from pretty much every stakeholder that we talked to, and we agreed in our internal team, was that there really needed to be a stronger connection between the present levels of performance and the annual goals and short-term objectives. Our current document is really hard to see the kind of that through line between where the student is functioning academically and otherwise, what are the concerns, what are the strengths, what's the impact of that, and then what does that lead to as far as being goals and objectives. So we've changed the form, and you're going to see this a little bit today on to really help strengthen that connection. We've also changed the form so that accommodations, modifications, and even AT are meant to be goal specific and not just general the way they are now. When a lot of the teachers and related services personnel that we spoke to applauded that decision and thought that was really important. And that was something that we saw in other states and that we liked, and that would be something that we're going to incorporate into our new document. Lastly, we've separated out the prior written notice from the new IEP document. Currently, page 3 of our document is the prior written notice, and it's not really a part of the IEP. It's a separate requirement under the IDEA. So we've separated that out in hopes that it becomes more meaningful and people understand it better. There is a lot of confusion out in the field about the purpose of prior written notice, and we really wanted to make that more easy to understand and more appropriate for staff and for parents to understand. Our current IEP also has a lot of extra data points that we're required to collect. A lot of the information on page 1, and then of course page 12, are data collection information that aren't required in the IEP, and just kind of, again, makes the document more complicated and more complex, really kind of an overload of information. We'll still be collecting that information in the CT-SEDS system because we do need to have it. It just won't be part of the IEP document the way it is now. Georgia. Next slide. So here's a little snapshot to give you just a quick example of what the draft IEP looks like currently. And this is the annual goal section. So you can see it looks quite different than what we have now. The section right before this, I think I already mentioned this, would be the present levels of performance, the student's strengths, areas of concern and need, and the impact of the disability on a child's ability to participate and progress. So right before that, you'll have all that information, which will then inform the development of annual goals and objectives. One of the things you'll see here at where the red arrow is located is the place to write the annual goal statement. Currently, we have the evaluation procedure and the performance criteria separated out, and you have to select codes using the key from the dropdown. But we've changed that, and we now, in the new form, the method, the evaluation method and criteria are meant to be embedded into the text, the narrative of the goal statement. Sometimes this happens now. People write goals and objectives that way with that criteria and methodology as part of the statement, and then they still have to select from the dropdowns, and that can get confusing. So we've eliminated the kind of the banks of the codes to use, and we're just incorporating that information into the goal and objective statements. Another thing you'll notice here on the right-hand side is the evaluation schedule, when progress will be measured. Currently, our form has 8 boxes for when the evaluation schedule, and it's kind of mirrored when the progress is reported out to the parents, quarterly or trimester, and the same dates that are used for progress reporting are entered on the goal page for progress monitoring. We really wanted to separate that out. While it may be appropriate to monitor progress on a goal 3 or 4 times a year, just to check in, is adequate progress being made on this goal? Do we need to revisit this? Do we need to call a PPT and take a look at this? For a short-term objective, probably more frequent progress monitoring is needed rather than just trimester or quarterly. By definition, they're short-term goals and objectives and benchmarks. So you can see here that the evaluation schedule for the short-term objectives, that can be any increment that's appropriate, every 2 weeks, monthly, probably a lot more frequently than quarterly, which again may be appropriate for a goal, but probably not so appropriate for short-term objectives. There's also a section here for a selection to Connecticut core standards or early learning development standards that relate to the goal and what the goal is based on. So that will be here, and we're expecting that to be a drop-down menu. As I mentioned before, the supplementary aids and services are attached to each annual goal. So that's what you're seeing on the bottom part of this graphic, a place to write accommodations, modifications, assistive technology, and then the service information for each of those, the frequency, location, and duration. Again, this is all adaptive. Right now, just as an example, we have 3 lines for short-term objectives. If there were 2, there would only be 2 lines. If there were 5, it would add more lines as appropriate. So the adaptive nature of the system will allow for that flexibility. Finally, here at the bottom is a place to write in any related services that are necessary to achieve the goal. So the federal regulation is written that way that related services should be used to support annual goals. And that makes, again, a nice connection to perhaps other related services that we're not really seeing that strong connection in our current document. And this, again, helps to see strengthen that through line on all the services the child is receiving. That's it.
Thanks, Mike. We are showing you here a clip of the hard copy form. So keep in mind as we move into the development stage, beginning with CT-SEDS and the platform that we're going to be working with, the screenshots are going to be adjusted based on business rules and logic that we build into the system for workflow purposes, creating a more intuitive process for the information that would be part of the PPT process, part of the referral process, et cetera. So again, just to remind you, what you saw there was really a snapshot of a hard copy form. The system, the data system itself will look different, and that is what we hope to be presenting to you as we roll out training in the coming years. The two goals for our 5-year implementation plan around the new IEP and training related. Goal 1 is around compliant and high quality special ed programming using the new IEP document. And goal 2, of course, is user proficiency. That is for the various roles and the hierarchy of roles from super user down to a reader, including parents, in using the CTSEDS platform. Both the new IEP and CTSEDS platforms will be in full statewide implementation in the 22-23 school year. So for a better picture of the timeline, this is the 5-year timeline we've developed. Some may think that this is overly ambitious, but that is what we have been planning on for the last 2 years as we work towards putting out the request for proposals for both the training and the development of CTSEDS. So here you'll see the first row, the training related to Goal 1. This coming school year, 2021, we are beginning to develop with a design team the quality training materials and piloting the quality trainings in spring of 2021. Moving to the next school year, 21-22, around Goal 1, we will launch IEP Quality Training statewide and begin training of trainers to build state and district capacity, particularly in alliance districts. In 22-23, around Goal 1 again, which is compliant and high quality IEPs, we go into full implementation in 22-23, continue the training, providing statewide TA for technical assistance directly to school districts around quality IEPs. And we also will initiate a program evaluation process for measuring the quality of implementation of the training and the impact on practices in districts. This continues on through 24-25, although we are also discussing with our vendors how we sustain this and continue beyond the 24-25 school year. Moving to Goal 2, the bottom row of the timeline, we begin the development and design of CTSEDS almost immediately once we have a contract with the vendor, and so we hope to initiate this in July. And over the next school year, we will be all engaged in the design of the system and all the features of it, including modules that Brian mentioned up front. But we will provide more information to you once the vendor has been contracted and we begin to share with you the details of all of the functionality and workflow that the CTSEDS system will entail. In 21-22, under Goal 2, which is CTSEDS, we will pilot CTSEDS in that school year And we will launch CT-SEDS user training statewide in the 21-22 school year. That is the year prior to full implementation. As you see in 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25, obviously these are all implementation years and then continuing through the out years beyond this timeline. So the CT-SEDS statewide training will be for all users at all levels, including a training of trainers for expert trainers at the district level. We expect any user to be participating in accessing training, and we'll get into the details of that in the next slide. So again here, parallel training opportunities beginning in 21-22. Under Goal 1, the developing compliant and high quality IEPs, we have a variety of trainings to be offered. Synchronous training, meaning that it will be a in-person or live trainer conducting virtual training online, and those will be led by trainers from CERC, the RESCs, or in-district trainers that go through a training of trainers model. And these will be training opportunities around quality IEP features using the new IEP form and directly using screenshots from the system. Asynchronous training are recorded online virtual modules that we will make available. And then finally, capacity building. We are committed to training a cadre of experts to build in-district capacity around compliant and high-quality IEPs. Goal 2, in parallel, we will do the same synchronous training, tiered training by user level for new users, and of course refreshers for those who need to review certain features of the system. Asynchronous, those will be available 24/7 on-demand virtual modules and user guides that will be available to all. And then finally, there will be training of trainers offered by the vendor designing CT-SEDS to build expert training capacity at the district level, so that as new teachers are hired and new staff are hired, you will have an in-house expert trainer on CT-SEDS. Moving into the IEP Quality Training modules and sections that we will offer, you see under the training focus column, we will provide developing IEP sections training, that is to walk those participants through, the educators in these sessions, through the development process that will focus on not only compliance but quality related to PLOPs, related to goals and objectives, progress monitoring, the service grid, and so forth. These will be offered either in-person, hopefully once we can return to in-person training, and virtual training as well. We approximate that this particular offering will be a total of 1.5 days of time for the participants going through it. The next offering is documenting progress monitoring related to the IEP goals and objectives. Again, we approximate a half day of training to be offered, both in-person and virtual training. And then the remaining sections that will be offered in terms of training on the new IEP will be all on-demand virtual training modules that will be asynchronous and available 24/7. Here we approximate these modules to be 45 minutes each. Please note that the last row of this matrix shows that we will offer obviously a statewide orientation to the new IEP for parents and families, as well as a brief overview of the PPT process that is focused on the new IEP form. So that will be made available to the public and particularly parents and families. Some considerations for all of you as we begin the strategic planning process with you. We need you as special ed directors and your colleagues at central office who oversee professional development for your district needs. You need to think about who in your district will need this training, both on Goal 1 and Goal 2, or one or the other. Many users of the system, many of your educators who are involved in the PPT process will need training on both sides, but in some cases that may not be the case. So this really requires you to know the person's role, at what level, how are they using the system, how are they engaged in the IEP process, in the PPT process, in order to really begin that planning around training needs. Secondly, we want you to think and consider how you will schedule the rollout of the training for staff in various roles across the 5-year implementation period. And thirdly, how can we build in-district capacity to provide this training? So these are considerations for all of you. We have asked our partners at the regional educational service centers, the special ed directors, to host fall sessions for the special ed directors in their catchment area around the planning process to really answer those questions that we are posing here for your consideration: the who, the how, the when. The process of training design will include a representative stakeholder group from the RESCs, from CERC, from the American Institutes for Research, from school districts. We will invite certain representation with professional development and training knowledge expertise, as well as special ed expertise, to be part of our training design team. So we will begin that process this summer. And as far as planning in the fall, we hope to bring you more information for these strategic planning sessions at the RESCs to help inform your planning of phasing the training and the out years of training for educators in your district based on goal 1 and 2. And also we will be surveying you on your questions and concerns related to the planning of phasing the training for your staff. So the invitation for these meetings will come from your RESC special ed director. The survey that we are planning to send out, we will be doing so within a few days. Probably it will go out on Monday, and it will go to the special ed directors, but I will provide more information on that shortly. At this point, we want to give you some opportunities to enter your questions in the question box so that we can answer them given the time allotted. If we can't get to your question today, please include your questions in the follow-up survey we will be emailing to you as special ed directors. And also from those questions that you send us, we will begin to build a frequently asked questions document with responses to the questions that you may have about the rollout of the new IEP and the training related to that. So let me give you all an opportunity to enter questions, and I'm going to ask Lindsay Hayes from AIR to unmute and provide us with the questions that have been posted at this point.
Mike and Georgette, outstanding job. And sorry to cut in, Lindsay. I just wanted to share that I've sort of been typing, just experimenting with the Q&A on the sidebar and typing in some answers to some questions. But just there's been a lot of questions about the IEP document itself. And obviously this isn't an IEP document training yet. Mike was able to share components of what we worked on, and as Georgette mentioned, a screenshot of the hard copy of what we have around goals and objectives. But just for all the participants, there were a lot of questions about, is there a need within the system to enter information multiple times? And really the system hasn't been built yet, but we were we prioritized the need for the system to be adaptive, as Mike said, and also to be dynamic in that if information is typed in that needs to be in 2 separate places within the IEP form as it's printed out, then there would be capabilities to do that. So we want a system that is easy to use, not a system where the same information has to be cut and pasted and entered in multiple times. So we will take that into consideration and address that. There was also suggestions around the IEP manual along with information within the document. Another aspect that we looked at within the system was the ability to hover over aspects of the IEP and receive information or receive links to information so that it doesn't clutter the document itself or clutter the system itself. But we have not engaged in the work of revising the IEP manual, as that will be happening simultaneously with our work with the vendor and developing the new IEP document. But we do plan to do that, to have a separate IEP manual. We know how valuable that is. We've heard how valuable that is for parents and for directors. So I just wanted to jump in and just mention those couple of things. And Lindsay, thank you for helping to facilitate our Q&A.
It is my pleasure to facilitate the Q&A. So like Brian said, we're going to prioritize the questions around training first. So one question that came through was, the suggested duration for the online modules is 45 minutes. What if people need more time to grasp these intricate sections of the IEP?
Brian, I'll take that question. So this is our initial plan for standardized training that we will provide quickly and online for the most part. The technical assistance we also are going to develop will provide additional training opportunities. We will provide more opportunities through CERC and the RESCs. So as we build this, these training sections and options that we have listed here in this particular meeting are the ones we have prioritized at this time. We know that there is going to be more training needed, but for now, this is what we're developing as a baseline. And then from there, we will work with all of you to expand the training opportunities and the technical assistance opportunities that may be provided in district or virtually to support the initial training offerings.
Okay, thank you. Another question related to training. So full implementation of the new IEP form and the Connecticut SEDS platform is going to start in the 2022-23 school year. Does that mean that we need to have everyone trained during the 2021-22 school year?
I'm going to ask Brian to jump in, or Mike, if you would like to. That is certainly an ideal. I don't believe that we will have the capacity to train absolutely everyone. That is why we are going to hold the strategic planning sessions in the fall at the regional educational service centers, so that you can think through how you want to prioritize who goes first in the training cohorts that will be run in 21-22, because that will be the first year we begin training users around CT-SEDS, as well as providing training around IEP quality. We know and respect how limited your time and the time of your educators is. So it is important that we are able to phase this and scale this over multiple years, because it is not possible to train absolutely everyone in the 21-22 school year. So we're not going to have that illusion around being able to do that. So it's going to take us some time to prioritize with you how the training sessions are scaled across the state and with the priority educators that you identify at your district level for both Goal 1 and Goal 2 training. So let me ask Brian to chime in on that one.
Yeah, well said, Georgette. I won't add too much to what you already stated, other than to say, you know, when we go to the statewide system, that's a huge change, and we're not trying to underplay that by any means. When I was a director previous to coming to the state, I did within district go through a change in the vendor that we used, and it was about a 3-year process before I felt like my staff really understood and was fully implementing and fully utilizing the system to its full capacity. Having said that, the first year, you know, everyone jumped in, and the idea is that there's no other system to be using, so this is the system that we're using for the PPT process. and all of those data collection components. So that's a great topic and a great question to be brought in. And we are considering the most effective and efficient ways to roll this information out. If we have to adjust our timelines, we will. As Georgette mentioned earlier, it is an aggressive timeline. But in speaking with our vendors and speaking with our stakeholders, we think it's a realistic time frame. Obviously, the impact that we've had based on the pandemic, we are taking into consideration, and the work that all of you are doing to support students now, will factor in. But this timeline, there was a lot of thought put into this timeline, but we know how monumental a task it is and will be to be able to roll out a new electronic IEP system.
So I have scanned a number of the questions in the question box. Many of you are asking about some specific features of the platform, the CT-SEDS platform. So the first thing I'm going to answer is that this is a statewide system. Everyone will be using this system. There will be one IEP vendor, and the state will pay for the cost. So other than that, many of your other questions we have already vetted with the vendor to be contracted, and these will be addressed. So all of you who are asking questions about the platform, rest assured that we've had a large stakeholder group, including special ed directors, your data managers, superintendents, other administrators who have been part of the RFP process and have asked your critical questions that you're asking now. Unfortunately, this is really not the time for us, and we can't at this point showcase for you the CT-SEDS platform, or at least the plan for it, but we will do so hopefully in the fall or in the coming year, at least some of the major features that you are all inquiring about. The main question I want to address that many of you are asking in the question box is this a statewide system, and will the state be bearing the cost of this? And the answer is yes.
And to be clear, when we say the state is paying, we've set aside federal funding through IDA funds at the state level to be able to support this system. It will not impact your local IDA grants in any way. So this is a benefit to districts financially to be able to redirect the finances that you devote to your current system and redirect that money to student programming or other district needs.
Lindsay,
Okay.
do you have any other questions that you want to pose for us?
Yes, quite a few more related to training. So, what will be the process for volunteering to be a pilot district? What will pilot districts be required to do? And does that involve using two systems simultaneously?
Brian, do you want to take that, please?
I will say more information to come on that. We have been obviously planning for and thinking about this. We've had some districts reach out to us and as willing participants in a pilot. Obviously, there are benefits to being a pilot in training aspects and familiarity with usage before the statewide implementation. We, in working with our vendor, we understand that the time pilot can be shorter than we anticipated. When we originally went into this project, I was thinking, wow, that's a huge undertaking for a district to run two simultaneous systems for a year. Well, we've heard that it won't be a year. It'll be a much shorter time frame where the system is piloted and worked through. We will have specific information on how, if you're interested in becoming a pilot district and what that entails in the upcoming weeks and months.
Next question. Will modules be available after the initial training so that educators can access them a second time if needed?
Yes, our plan is all the modules will be made available virtually and on demand around IEP quality. So even the ones that we build originally for in-person or synchronous training, our goal down the road is to convert those into online training modules with checks for proficiency and comprehension. We also, just because I saw a question about new teachers, these will be also used to work with our teacher prep colleagues, so that they, the faculty at our teacher prep institutions, are training both the general ed teachers, the special ed teachers, and new administrators around the new IEP and around the IEP quality characteristics that we are providing in training for our in-district colleagues. So our plan is to scale this even farther beyond the districts into teacher prep and higher ed. And our commitment is to make these available virtually. Obviously, we will continue to evaluate and improve it as we go year to year. That is why AIR has been contracted. Their program evaluator will assist us in improving these efforts, not only in terms of the quality of the training, but in terms of your feedback, your educator feedback on what they need in order to continue and sustain quality implementation of IEPs.
Just jumping in real quick too, Lindsay, I saw a few questions in the chat box around data collections, and that's another really exciting feature of the CT-SEDS, is that rather than districts taking the time to upload and enter information as we have now, we would be able to reach into the system and obtain that data. So again, ease of use, the data that we have, we'll be able to access in a very new and innovative way to reduce burdens on the local district. So that was our goal, and that was our intent with designing a really comprehensive system as well.
I see a few questions that are related to 504 plans. Does this system encompass 504 plans?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that this question has been asked and answered already, but I would like it reiterated one more time just for the audience. What is the exact school year the new IEP must be used by?
22-23. So I'm going to go back and show the timeline again. 22-23 is our full implementation year, as you see here on this slide. So this is what we are planning and building capacity for. That is why the question that was asked earlier about will everyone be trained in 21-22, while again, that is ideal, but it is not a practical outcome for us. We rely on you as special ed directors to prioritize who will get trained in this school year, the 21-22 school year, in order to be prepared to implement. Obviously, we will continue statewide training in 22-23, concurrent with implementation of CT-SEDS. And then obviously beyond that, we will continue training and technical assistance. So the strategic planning sessions in the fall are going to be critical to not only help you discuss with your own colleagues and your regional service centers what your needs are for planning the and prioritizing the training for your staff, but it will help inform us in terms of demand for all of this in order to meet your needs. Brian?
And just wanted to jump in that the vendor has a lot of experience in training statewide to be able to ensure that PPTs are ready and prepared to use the new system. So again, this is where we have more discussions, and we need your input. And in working with our partners, we will have a realistic plan to be able to implement so that we're all prepared for that exciting year of 22-23. I wish it could come sooner, but we know that it can't.
I think I have one more question that's related to training. So there are a few questions that have indicated some concerns about the training that's going to be needed to effectively transition to the new system. Can you speak a little bit to the lift that is going to be, the expectations for training that are specifically on districts?
The training I am speaking to in these slides are trainings that will be provided for by the state through CERC, through the RESCs, for those districts that are alliance districts who identify expert trainers. They will be able to use their own trainers to deliver much of this training, but we will continue to push into the district and provide training through CERC or the RESCs in addition to your own in-district trainers. Again, if you are an alliance district, our commitment is to train trainers in your district. But as far as other districts that are non-alliance districts, you can tap into the training that we will make available, again, from the state, through CERC, through the RESCs, and other opportunities that we may provide to expand what we are currently showing and sharing with you. But the expectation is that if you wish to have someone in your district as a trainer, we will in the out years begin to plan for training more trainers if that is what you desire. But that is the kind of feedback we need to hear from you in order to plan out across this 5-year implementation plan.
There's actually one more question that I think will have a very short answer. So where will these training modules, these on-demand materials, where will they live? Where will they be housed?
They will be housed at an available website. It's not determined yet where we will house them. Right now, we are moving away from using the state website for purposes of that for multiple reasons. So we will either utilize CERC to house these, or our vendors who are currently contracted to support our training efforts around this 5-year plan.
All right, I believe that deals with the bulk of the questions that dealt with training. There obviously, as has been noted, were others that dealt with the IEP form. So I believe at this time, I think we have the majority of the Q&A questions related to training answered.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. I just want to remind you that if we did not get to your question today, or your questions are specific either to the IEP form or the CTSEDS platform, we will be sharing more information over the next year, probably more information than you will want to absorb, but at any rate, as the new vendor comes online around CTSEDS, we will plan to unveil this. Remember that we will have our back to school meeting in September. It will be held virtually. There will be more information shared about all of this at the back to school. So, but anything that you have submitted through the question box, we will try to incorporate in an FAQ to share out with all of you in the near future. So next steps, we'd like you to share and discuss planning with for this training with persons in your district responsible for PD around your staff, because we know you have competing priorities, especially going into this coming school year. I will not go into all of the demands and challenges ahead of us returning and reopening schools in the fall, but that is why our perspective is to look into the 21-22 school year. Hopefully things and operations will resume normalcy to some extent, to the most extent for all of you in 21-22. But it is important that those in your district who are responsible for district-wide PD planning are brought into this process and understand the demands that will be on all staffs, general ed staff, special ed staff, related service staff, and administrative staff, as well as your paraprofessionals. So please keep that in mind, that this really needs to become part of your thinking around your district PD planning. We will send a follow-up email to all special ed directors with a link to a survey to collect some more information from you around the intent, your intent for phasing the training of staff over the next 4-year period, 21-22 through 24-25. You do not have to return that right away. We know you will want to talk within your district and within your leadership teams about this before you respond, and that's fine. We just need some approximate information to inform our budgeting and planning of all of the training needs and the implementation of all of it. We will provide a link to this web meeting, a recording of the web meeting that you are welcome to share with your colleagues at central office or across the district who need to know this information. Keep in mind, this is very high level. So just as you've been asking some detailed questions, they're not going to get actual details about the IEP form itself or the CT-SEDS system itself. So those really, those questions will be answered over the coming year. And then finally, please plan on engaging with your RESC Special Ed Director in the fall strategic planning meetings, and the invite will come. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brian to close the meeting.
Thank you again. I'd like to thank AIR again for coordinating this meeting today, and we look forward to our partnership through CERC and the RESC Alliance. Mike and Georgette, I want to thank you both, and for those participants on the line, as Georgette mentioned, thank you for your attention, your participation, and your questions. We're very excited about this initiative. We want to ensure that you are involved in and a part of the planning and the rollout. So we will take every effort to do that, and more information to come. I wish you all well, and thanks again for your time and participation. Take care, everyone.